Hey everybody, welcome to this is Dr. Zeus again, the Emotion and Motivation class. Welcome to the last official video. I'm only needing one video here for weeks 14, 15, and if you want to count 16, that's basically the week you turn in your final paper. So I may make one other video in response to to summarize some of your responses to this class and to your presentations, other class presentations, and your own presentation. But basically, this is the last one to tell you what to do over these last few weeks. As I said before, and I'm following through on my promise, I'm giving you a lot of free time to work on these final two projects. Where all the other classes are stacking up your papers, I'm doing the exact opposite. I've kind of had you working pretty hard through up to this point, and now I'm going to be tailing back the academic readings, tailing back some of the discussion questions, question of the week, to allow you to really work together to develop high quality presentations and also have time to reflect and develop your thoughts and your thinking and time to actually write the final paper. So I walk my talk. I have a background in education, so I know how much information can get into your head. You've all done really high quality work so far, made some great contributions and great transformations already, and it's gone beyond my wildest expectations. So I want you to be able to at least take this time to consolidate that and really bring it home. And that's basically what we're going to do over these last few weeks. Again, I'm allowing all these to be pretty open. I'm going to open up the dates on all these so that you have time to allot your time and your space and your attention, especially with regard to other classes, well in advance. I'm now about a month ahead now, and you can look into the future all the way to the end of the semester, which is basically about 4 or 5 weeks out. So I'm trying to do my best here to help you along and to use best practices when it comes to learning. And it does not help learning when you're overwhelmed with a bunch of material. You need the time to digest it and to assemble it, and I'm committed to bringing that to you. So here we are, work template, week 14, 15, and 16. Again, use this template only as a study guide, okay? Do not send your work directly to me if you can help it, okay? Or if you're worried about it, send it up as a backup, but I want you to submit it on Blackboard Learn, okay? Unless you have some kind of technical difficulty. So basically, here's what we're doing. For week 14, the discussion board will involve what useful insights did you gain from your each group presentation. That really is a response to the different, everybody's going to be turning in their group presentations in week 14 to be viewed by all the rest of you. And now, basically, I'm going to detail how you respond to each one of those. And then the week 14 question of the week, what are the most important things you've learned from your group, other groups, and from this class? So it's very much a kind of winding things up. It's not going to require a lot of research. There's no academic reading here. You don't have to read the academic videos either, as I showed here, okay? We just have this one video, the intro video about positive goals and useful feedback. Then we're going to work on final paper on goals, ask clarifying questions, give useful, that is specific and constructive feedback to groups as part of this week 14. And then optional or academic readings and academic videos in the weeks 14, 15, and 16 folders. You do not have to do those. If you're very curious, you can, but you are not required to. 3 notes. The first one, like I said, there will be no question of the week and discussion board, or there will only be one for week 14 and no question of the week or discussion board for 15 and 16. You'd be working on your final paper there, okay? I may make a final Ask Dr. Zeus video to summarize your feedback from week 14 and provide a concluding message, something along the lines of go forth, prosper, and learn, something pep talky, I guess. But please feel free to share questions or confusions with class members and the instructor on the messages so everyone can benefit from them. The second note is there will be no additional required academic readings from here on out. I'm making them optional. Feel free to engage the folder academic readings and folder videos from these weeks at your discretion. And finally, a third note, I reserve the right to offer forgiveness on 2 of your grades for question of the week and or discussion. We have so many evaluations. We have had so many evaluations in this class. I'm inclined to exempt 2 grades or provide amnesty for 2 failures to turn in because the work demand has been constant and robust and your contributions have been very high quality. So as a kind of reward for that, a surprise, I do reserve the right, not necessarily, we'll just see how things go, to forgive or exempt 2 of your grades. And don't forget, if you are behind or you missed discussion board, or if you missed question of the week, you can get up to 20 points extra credit by reading the Rosie Project and answering a few questions on that. It really has to do with emotional intelligence, and I'll explain that below. So the objectives here: learn to form and pursue successful goal setting and achievement. That really has to do with your final paper. Develop the ability to provide useful, that is specific, constructive feedback on group presentations. That has to do with the discussion board and question of the week. And finally, internalize a non-neurotic, confident process in approaching and finishing final papers. Okay, I'm going to try to make it easy for you. I've done a kind of run through to get you an idea, to get you warmed up to the notion of what you can do with your final paper. And so I'm sort of just laying it out very simply for you. We have, here's the introduction, and let's put it this way. The title is Trust Yourself. And I'll just read. If there's one motto I hope you get from this course, it is trust yourself. Everything you are and do can provide clues to a deeper and fuller living, even and sometimes especially your so-called negative emotions. Difficult emotional challenges and situations, gracefully and honestly addressed, allow us to feel ourselves at our deepest levels and allow us to find those reservoirs of personal strength and knowledge to become positively transformed, to become giving, remarkable, joyful, and strong spirits, citizens, mothers, fathers, siblings, community members, and children of the universe. I have sought to reinforce your ability to overcome anxiety and busyness by allowing flexibility with late work. I have sought to create the climate for positive risk by encouraging your willingness to provide your passion and talent in your group presentations, to share your real difficulties in life, and to offer your best and deepest insights applied to life so that you may grow not only in this class but beyond. So again, don't let me down right here, right? Confidently and gracefully take the extra time I've provided over these next weeks to breathe and engage these last few assignments well. Start early on them. Even if it's just jotting down some ideas for 5 minutes, you'd be surprised at how much that primes the pump. And see if doing so will allow you to perform better with a more positive attitude and less stress. The time to apply the emotional insights in this class is now. Emotions are not simply states of being to manage, which is the negative orientation, but rather passionate fuel for performance in life, the positive orientation. We have 2 main projects left in this course: feedback on the group presentations and the class, and your final paper on goals. So, week 14 is for group presentation, project submission, and discussion board comments on group presentations. Week 15 is for review and fielding of questions for the final paper on goals. I'll correct that. See the final paper description and example run through that I will do later on in this video. And week 16 is finals week, where your final paper is due Tuesday, May 8th. Okay, so there you have it, all set up, ready to go. And here we are. Here's the first question for discussion board. Offer insights and questions on discussion board and respond to at least one fellow student. Here are the questions. What useful insights did you gain from each group presentation? Again, this is a bit of accountability. I want to make sure you've seen each one of these and not blown them off, because people have worked really hard for this. And this is what I explain here. My one and only concern here is that you engage and give your full attention to each video or project provided by your class and give evidence that you have engaged each one. I don't want all the hard work and creative effort that the rest of your classmates have done to go to waste. So there are only 3 simple requirements. List and number each group, okay? There should be 6 groups besides yours, or videos or projects. Watch each one of the other group's 6 videos attentively all the way through. and provide one important useful insight from each presentation and why you found it useful in your life. So this is very simple. I'm just trying to get a greatest hits here and to ensure that you've taken the time to actually view these videos. This is not a tremendous demand. You could watch the whole video without taking a single note and just think to yourself, what one thing that pops out in my mind that I really learned that was useful? You put that down, you go to the next one. Before you know it, since all of them are maybe 10 to 15 minutes, you spent an hour to an hour and a half and you've got this done. You've seen all the videos. You've really been enhanced by the knowledge and wisdom of others. And I haven't made you do some kind of really, really complicated response. One useful insight from each presentation and why you found it useful in your life. Okay, that's it. Maybe cook up some popcorn beforehand if you like, but other than that, there are no more requirements. And here's a note. I do encourage you to watch together. If you want to share insights and turn them in individually, just let me know who is in your group watching, and you can write down the same insights. In other words, you can come to insights as a group and write them down individually and turn those in. That's fine with me, no problem. You must be part of the conversation, however, not simply copying from another person, okay? I want you to actually engage this, okay? So, question of the week assignment. What are the most important things you've learned from your group, other groups, and from this class? Again, no academic readings necessary for this. This goes right to your research here is just watching the videos and doing a reflective exercise over your group participation and a review in your mind and heart about this class. The questions again are very simple. The first one has to do with individual accountability. How did you contribute helpfully to the group project? Instead of having you rat on each other, I'm just having you say it, okay? And making you accountable from your situation. So the first thing is, what actual work did you do? Just go ahead and let me know the work you actually did for the project. What gift or talent did you share? And what was that experience like emotionally? I encouraged a lot of you to get kind of risk on this. One person who loved music, I said, why don't you do the background soundtrack for this? You know, that's significant. It's a whole project, it's a presentation, and music is very powerful. So it's like, well, what? That's not very academic. It doesn't matter. I'm saying, if you felt really worried about that, or you felt really joyful about that, and you decided to do something like that, just let me know, okay? And then finally, what steps in the presentation assignments did you help on, and what did you learn? Remember, there were 5 steps, right? It had to do with doing your emotional inventory first, then coming up with some research, then coming up with an issue that you could kind of apply research to that could be helpful for other people, that's useful and practical. And then there were, you know, another one about strategies was the last one, and I can't remember what the 4th one was. But again, what steps, how did you involve your steps in those? How did you involve yourself in those steps, and how did you learn? Feedback for other groups. If you could give a 2-sentence summary statement about what you found valuable in the other group's presentations, what would it be? Okay, so again, you've already done the more detailed response about the insight that you've learned on the discussion board. All I'm asking here is for a 1- or 2-sentence summary statement about what you found valuable in general about all the other groups' presentation. Okay, give it a real brief statement. I don't want this to be long-winded. You can have a few more sentences if you want. And then feedback for this class in general. Here we go. Give an example of significant growth you had in this class, and give an example of a significant challenge you had in this class. Again, I'm being very specific, right? But also very directed in helping you kind of understand the value of this class. It's hopefully helped you deal with emotional challenges and hopefully helped you develop emotional strengths and growth. So now we're already down to the final paper description, okay? A nice brief video for once. I started small, I started getting longer and longer, now I'm getting back again. So the emotion and motivation autobiography. It's gonna be, I guess, 150 points. I think I haven't changed that. Other ones did outlines and have you turn in drafts. I'm not gonna be a babysitter. That's too much work for me, and I'm gonna make it very straightforward for you. So I'm going to trust that you are college students, that you know how to write a decent paper, and that you're disciplined enough to get it turned in on time. I'm going to make it easier for you because I'm doing a sample run through down here using my own goal, finishing a rough draft of my authored book, The Spiritually Confident Man. So I won't really take time to go through this description because I've already copied the description down in my sample run through. So I will read those. I'll offer sort of how I would kind of come at it, and that will give you kind of an idea about the kinds of things I'm looking for when you go ahead and address these, again, 5 steps, okay? So here we are, the sample run through using my own goal, finishing a rough draft of my authored book, The Spiritually Confident Man. I've already written one. Actually, I have a completed draft on another book, and this is my 3rd one. But I've noticed that this is one that's going to have to come out earlier than my 2nd book. So before I release that one, I'm actually going to finish this one and try to get it published. So the first thing is select a significant goal you desire to become motivated toward going into the future, an area you would like to change or improve. Okay, very simple. Try to choose something from the heart that can benefit from practical examination, a deeper passion you desire to pursue. It does not have to be a professional or academic goal, but it can be. Okay, it could be a personal goal, it could be a relationship goal, it could be a family-oriented goal. Any of those work for me. It doesn't need to be academically oriented. Me personally, I want to finish a rough draft of my new authored book, The Spiritually Confident Man, that seeks to teach men how to be the provider of the feast rather than the ruler on the throne, where generosity and emotional confidence win out. I get kind of my grammar wrong there. Win out over egotism and insecurity. So, do an emotional profile on yourself. That's step 2. And discuss emotional propensities, character elements that might help or hinder this development. And explain what you believe their effects might be. Okay? So, again, what I really encourage all of you to do is cut and copy this description here, right? And then onto a Word document and give yourself space and just keep it with you and scroll insights and ideas with written pencil or pen underneath each one of these. That's all I did. And this is what I came up with. You know, once it has time to percolate up there, you'd be surprised how much easier it is than trying to force yourself externally through this process. This is more like pulling you through. Remember, we talk about being pulled through and then internal draw rather than this being forced to and knocking yourself around. This is a good way to do it. So, number 2, so here it is. I said, I have a propensity to become passionate and interested in so many aspects of life and male identity that I write up pages of insights and notes. This is normal and natural to me and has a good side. I have a real breadth of information and a real abundance of inspiration. No writer's block here. But a not so helpful side when it comes to reaching this goal of finishing a rough draft, because I endlessly write and get involved in passionate tasks like this one, like this class, upon which I spend a very large amount of time. You know, you told me about 7 to 10 hours. It's been a lot more than that per week, especially with 30 students. But the nice thing about it is that much of the work that I've come in here, some of it can directly translate into the issues in writing for my book. But more importantly, it's really helped me understand relationships between men and women so much better. So it's been a great gift to me, almost like background for this book. And so I don't feel as if this has been a distraction. I feel it's been an enhancement of my understanding, my practical understanding, especially about relationships between men and women and how and the issues that men have to face with regard to improving those. So even so-called distractions, if you have an integrated mind, can be brought around to help you improve or complete a goal or task. Doesn't have to be mutually exclusive here. So I said, I will have to follow my own advice and trust myself to edit and simply allow the really powerful, simple, and crystalline ideas to become central and realize that these materials can be fleshed out in discussion and interaction. If you're really passionate, write as long as you want. Some of you have gone way over word limits, but you've been excellent writing. Keep on going. But don't force yourself into that framework. Focus on the crystalline ideas. If you have other ideas that come and or an example that comes to your mind where you can develop that a little bit more, great, okay? I have to work on this too, where I just really get the more greatest hits ideas, do some good solid examples around those. And if I feel like later developing it more specificity or more elaboration, But if it turns out, hey, there's plenty of pages in this book, let's get it out now, we'll develop the ideas later in discussion and so forth, then that is fine. It's about prioritizing. And you want to prioritize around your crystalline ideas with nice, succinct, specific examples. And if you have time later, you can elaborate. If you don't have time later, you turn it in that way, okay? So this is where the motivation and emotion class has really helped me to summarize and realize those golden grains of truth that bring many of the threads and most powerful learning moments together. When I'm doing this Ask Dr. Zeus, this is really what it's been about, helping me crystallize what's going on. And that's helped me write my book, because instead of just looking at all my ideas sort of as the same thing, I'm now picking out what I know to be the most emotionally powerful ones, selecting them out and making them central to my book, and leaving some of the other stuff behind. And so that's really been helpful. Now, step number 3 in this paper is include an acknowledgement of your sociocultural variables, family influences, socioeconomic status, gender, etc., and their impact on your mindset and efforts going forward. So, I've always been a high achiever, partly in response to my European Midwestern work ethic roots, okay? However, that also has a downside, as it tends to be too pragmatic and emphasize the get it done over a more reflective and mystical journey of discovery. My educational status as a PhD in philosophy of education gave me real access and insight into the social sciences, from which I draw many of my ideas, but it also taught me how to be too wordy and abstract. Okay, so again, almost every gift has a downside, and almost every downside with a negative emotion has a gift, is a doorway into creating some kind of strength. So we need not stereotype these two things. Most of them have both. Okay, and that's why I talked about it and your impact on your mindset and efforts going forward. Usually there's some kind of negative impact, some kind of positive impact, and if you can be specific about it, you can really limit the negative impact and increase the positive impact so your goal can be achieved more successfully. So, therefore, reading again, it's both a strength to have a breadth of knowledge and an area of improvement to hone my words and make them more practical and accessible to the average reader. My status as a male, of course, has influenced me to see this subject, which is males and masculine identity, as very important and central to my identity. And my background in metaphysics and spirituality helped develop a passion in me for these kinds of questions, and these deeper kinds of questions of a new kind of man, okay, more sensitive, more engaged, and at the same time still strong. It was my exposure and work with feminism, however, that really spurred me to develop a model of manhood that embraced women as equal and beneficially different, that is the best of both worlds, and got me to really think about a different kind of man relating to women and the rest of the world very differently. So instead of the battle of the sexes, it was appreciation of difference and allow that dynamic of differences with equal respect to really create the best of both worlds. Okay, so 4, the description is here. Share the major motivational influences in your life, both positive, i.e. an inspiring teacher or mentor, and negative, i.e. a belittling authority figure, what their effects were, and how these experiences inform you going forward. Again, this is not always clear. It is possible a negative influence could have motivated you to prove them wrong. So I'm not expecting a quid pro quo here. This negative created this negative consequence. Sometimes it can create a positive consequence, and sometimes if you were spoiled and indulged too much, that creates a negative consequence. So it's not always so simple. Anyway, I'll just offer these examples again. My father, who kept belittling me throughout my life until 2000 when he died, and okay, did I say that quite right? Okay, so one of the influences, I think it's kind of a sentence fragment, but basically my father was one of those, I guess you would say, challenging or negative or belittling authority figures, okay, that belittled me throughout my life until 2000 when he died. He had no problem calling me stupid, even when he knew I was quite smart. This desire and habit to prove to him and others could have helped my extrinsic motivation, okay? So I'm trying to prove to him that I'm smart. It was an extrinsic motivator, okay? But it has not been so good for my intrinsic motivation. If you become so involved in trying to prove yourself to somebody else, you start to erase or not become in tune enough with those things that drive you from the inside. In response to this, back to reading again, I have had to develop a love of writing as a way to create a kind of channel of thoughts and feelings. From this, I have derived the joy of writing and an inner life that lends itself much more to my own initiative and autonomy. This should help in finishing my goal. My advisor in graduate school, Emily Robertson, was such a kind, reliable, and supportive woman. It helped me to pick. She helped me pick out self-esteem as my area of research, knowing I would be personally as well as academically benefit from it. Also, I was able to form a community of inquiry with other graduate students when we traveled together to a conference. We ended up presenting at 2 more conferences and publishing a book about what does it mean to teach children to be valuable members of a valuable society, all resulting from a group conversation driving 13 hours back from Chicago to Syracuse in a rented van. So again, that notion of supportive community that was brought up in Reeve chapter 10 last week. Again, these insights that begin to relate back to some of the readings and academic readings we've done. Finally, number 5, outline how you intend to pursue your goal and include motivation strategies referring to your insights above and the academic literature we have already reviewed. Note, you should cite APA and full bibliography, at least 4 research articles. Please just do 4. Don't do any more, okay? You're not gonna impress me. You're just gonna take more time. Pick only 4, okay? During this semester, if you're really into it and you wanna pick more, that's fine. I'm not gonna punish you for it. I just don't want you to take too much extra time, okay? So just pick the 4 research articles we discussed during the semester that you find the most helpful, preferably from your own notes and assignments, so you don't do unnecessary extra work. Let the work you've done work for you now. That's the whole point of doing these little mini assignments, is you pulling all these insights out, not just use these insights and apply it to goals. Okay, don't create work for yourself, please. In this sense, I would have chosen from the literature that we've already reviewed, Deci and Ryan's work on self-determination theory, especially its discussion of autonomy, freedom and choice, competence, ability, and relatedness, close relationships with others, okay? For me, those are really, really helpful indicators. If we can get autonomy, if I can feel my competence and relatedness, close association with others, these things all motivate me to get these tasks and goals done. They also had a great discussion of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. We know from research that intrinsic tends to be a lot more powerful. It certainly is for me, okay? Extrinsic will get you going, but it's a lot shorter lasting, and you start knocking yourself over the head, and after a while, you're like, okay, enough already. And the article in Reese on chapter 8 about goal setting and motivation would be an obvious fit, especially with its emphasis on the benefits of specificity and difficulty in setting and accomplishing goals. This should help with focus and therefore effectiveness, okay? So in my own particular case, focusing and being more effective. Also, Reese chapter 10 on combating negative self-views from last week, and my own critical responses to that. You can see the intro video from week 12 and 13 to catch that. Helps me realize what to watch out for in terms of not just negative views, but any little doubt or uncertainty that might stand in the way of me simply getting to my keyboard, working through my notes and chapters. Again, a lot of times we'll really work up writing or an assignment, like, oh God, I've got to know how to do this all perfect at once. No, I can just go to the keyboard, I can type out some thoughts, sometimes just for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden I'm getting those juices flowing. Okay, and I'm encouraging you to do that too. Some of you took me up on this, said, okay, instead of turning it at the last moment, try doing it a day early. And one of you took me up on it. It was great. You did a great entry, 10 out of 10 discussion. And you're not pressing yourself, and you now have extra time to do other things. So I definitely encourage that. Again, okay, and all these articles provide some enlightenment about clarity in decision making, so I can be more thoughtful but crystal clear in my decisions about what to include in my draft and what not to. Okay, in my decisions. Okay, in my decisions about what to include and what not to. Drawing upon these sources and insights from the class, here are some sample strategies that might help me complete my goals, not only more effectively, but more joyfully. So again, these are just, these are very general, okay, but I just threw them out there. I don't want to over-determine what you're going to put. So these are not meant to be these are just my own, okay? And just to give you kind of an example, yours are going to be completely different than mine, but this will just give you an idea. So find a specific time of day to write and produce a specific minimum of words, focusing on one section of my notes so I get a chunk done without leaving my writing in the middle of a thought. Again, that has to do with specificity. That was the Deci or that was the Reeve chapter, sorry. Another strategy is allow myself to imagine myself sharing the material with others in a book lecture or workshop and helping to improve the world of men's identity and helping men relate better to women. This would be very intrinsically motivating for me. By doing that kind of imagining, I'm like, it really helps me understand how important this is. And it says, Zeus, this is not an option. Get this book out there, start writing, be passionate. From Reese chapter 10, surround myself with a supportive community that can inspire and encourage me. This includes discussing the book with my sweetie, Regina Meredith, in ways that sharpen the concepts and make them easier to write. She has a great eye and an ear for a powerful phrase and idea. This may mean, as with the past, finding a writing partner, doing his or her own book. Again, a friend of mine, great male friend of mine, Dexter Gauntlet, we were actually both writing books together, and we would meet regularly once or twice a week to share our writing, share our, the publisher's perspective and everything else. So here's another strategy. Continue to teach the emotion and motivation class. Getting such amazing examples and feedback and interaction with students has helped me increase my level of competence, back to self-determination theory, and got me more charged up about discussing emotions in public and in writing. Okay, so it's really gotten me to be much more competent about writing about emotions, and it's gotten me more competent and charged up about publicly interfacing with people over these topics. And finally, this last strategy here is the close relatedness of the emotion and motivation class has taught me. That means all of us being really pretty close and sharing some pretty dramatic things from our lives has taught me profound content lessons in the real challenges in relationships between women and men. Okay, how to be broken open by difficult circumstances, and what the stakes are if we and the stakes if we don't create a healthier kind of masculinity. All this has been both intrinsically and extrinsically motivating for me. Okay, so again, it's really beginning to remember back on the close relatedness of this class, and that's also part of self-determination theory, and the way in which we're able to support each other in going forward. To give you an idea, the word count above, just my words, with not quite 1,100 words, and the requirement's only 1,250 to 2,500. Okay, so I'm asking you to really do some thoughtful reflection on this. You can use this. Again, it's almost up to the 1,250 already. I'd like maybe more specific examples, so it's going to get you more up to the maybe 2,000 word level. But it shouldn't take you a lot of time to do this, especially if you take the description, hand scribble some notes, discuss it with one of your classmates, get the juices flowing, just write a few more notes. Now you've got an outline. You type them up. You've answered the questions. You've selected out the readings from your past contributions on the discussion board and your papers. You only need 4. And from those 4 insights, you've done the paper, okay? Don't put pressure on yourself. Bring it to its simple priorities. And again, strategize to get this goal done, which is the gold paper done using these things. And finally, of course, extra credit. Some of you may have missed discussion boards. Some of you may have missed a question of the week. If you want to make up for that, the Rosie Project is a book. Okay, you can do this either individually or in presentation groups. Okay, if you want to do it as a presentation group and you want to share the work, all the better. I'm going to encourage that. But basically, it's very, very simple. I said, describe 3 instances from the book where emotional learning helped the 2 main characters be more compassionate and the results. Also answer this question. It's an interesting question. How were the 2 main characters able to communicate emotion, given that one of the main characters was autistic and did not express his emotions normally, as Ekman assumes in his book? So, I mean, it's kind of a counterpoint to the Ekman book. Okay, when a person isn't giving you the signs, then how are they actually creating through relationship and understanding of emotions? A lot of times you'll have to talk, you'll have to fail, you'll have to experiment. There are all kinds of ways of doing it. Okay, and then the final note, just be yourself, trust yourself, make this class work for you and work for it. So I hope that this class has been inspiring for you. I hope that you've gotten a lot out of it already. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Just understand that the love of this class and some of the knowledge that it's teaching you and enabling you to share with others is going to be very helpful. And use that same mentality going forward into your final presentations, your group presentations, your comment on the group presentations, which is week 14, and your final paper, which really has to do with weeks 15 and turning it in week 16. So again, it's all there for you. And I look forward to reading your insights and learning a lot more. Until then, and who knows when, this is Zeus Yamionis, Dr. Zeus, signing out. We'll see you. Bye.